Go ahead, Chair.
Morning, everyone. Calling the HTA board meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Poe?
Here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Paishan is excused. Member Goss? Here. Thank you. Member Arakawa?
Here.
Member Hanneman is excused, and Member Iona is excused. Member McCauley?
Here.
Thank you. Member Paulson?
Here.
Thank you. Member Fun?
Here.
And Member West?
Present.
And lastly, Member White.
Here and alone.
Thank you. Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you. And Lisa, just to clarify, so we cover our law, just checking if there's anyone with you in the location you're at.
I'm alone in my work office.
Appreciate that. Thank you. So with that, we will move forward with opening protocol. Kim, you want to say anything? Okay.
Aloha and good morning, everyone. Joining us today is our Aulani Culture Advisor. His name is Kama Hopkins. And I had asked Vice Chair Mahina Paishan if we could have him join us to do today's opening protocols.
Oh, yeah, that's better. That's better. Welcome everyone to this beautiful, beautiful Aloha Thursday, Aloha Po'aha Noho'i. I want to just say, share a little Olelo No'iau, and then change it. So, you know, there's this Olelo No'iau, a wise saying that goes like this: U'uku kahana, u'uku kalawa'a, which simply means, if you only do a little bit, you're only going to get a little bit in return. I, like you, have had some experience in public service. You know, in fact, today is actually the last day of the commission which I sit on, which is the Charter School Commission. So aloha to them. I have to go straight back to work and miss the meeting. So you folks enjoy yours. I send my aloha to theirs. But when we look at that Olelo No'iau, u'uku kahana, u'uku kalawa'a, and we think about, well, you know, do I do just enough to get by? If I do just this, we'll get that. Well, I want to say in public service, it's often a thankless job. And for those of us that are here, those of us that are listening outside, you know, I know from personal experience what this particular board has gone through over several years. I used to work for an elected official, Trustee Bobby Lindsay, who passed away on May 30th at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And we often followed closely what HTA did. And so to see the rise, the hard times, but also good times that we celebrated, we want to give you all congratulations, because I think this is one board, and naysayers might say different, but I will say this is one authority that actually has changed that to nui kahana, nui kalawa'a. The more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And, you know, where I come from, or where we come from at Aulani, you know, we share this with our cast members. You know, if you're fair, you know, you play with fairness, you do things in a right way, we call that kaulike. We have responsibilities that we need to perform, and we are accountable for what we do. We call that kuleana. We all live on an island. We cannot do things alone. So laulima is very important. We need to cooperate with one another. When you malama and you take care of one another, things go so far, so fast. And in the end, you do things with olu, with kindness, you know, with grace. And all of those things make up this 5-letter word we call aloha. You know, and some people take that word for granted. But I want to extend, on behalf of us at Aulani Disney Resort and Spa, thank you for all you folks do. Mahalo nui. And that will end my portion, except with a little song. You know, cannot leave without singing this song. You know, the chair was going to dance this song today. He learned it many moons ago, but, you know, he's busy today, so we will just sing it. We will just sing it. It was written for Aulani to welcome our guests. Aloha, e kumohai, e Aulani kumohai. Yeah. And happy 626 Day. Aloha.
Mahalo, appreciate that, Kim. Thank you for sharing a little bit of Aulani magic with us here today. I think as some of you know, Aulani is a special place to me as well, so appreciate having that part of it as our opening protocol. With that, we'll continue on to the agenda item number 4. Are there any reports from permitted interaction groups? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, approval of minutes for the May 28th, 2025 board meeting. May I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second has been moved and seconded. Are there any discussion, any edits for the minutes? If not, are there any objections to approving the minutes? Seeing none, those minutes are approved. Item 6, CEO report. Caroline.
Aloha board members. Before I begin my report, I just wanted to thank all of you for everything that you've done over this year and the years prior. You know, as staff, we cannot move forward unless we have your guidance and support. And we just want to show our appreciation, again, because everything that you have guided us with, you know, from our committee meetings to our board meetings, you know, we really take it to heart. And our staff, you know, we just want to execute and do well for our industry, our community, and our visitors. So with that, we have lei to give all of you, and I'm sorry, Lisa and Mike, that you're not with us. Otherwise, you will have a lei as well, but we'll give you a virtual lei. But we want to just thank you for everything that you've done for us. And yeah, without your guidance and support, we wouldn't, as an authority, be who we are and what we are today. So thank you so much. And over here. And you get a lei too, John, for everything that you have to put up with us with. I just wanted to recognize our staff because, you know, a lot of them, they're not here for a board meeting, but they're right here. I just wanted you to know who the team is behind all of the work that we do. So thank you. And thank you to our staff.
Yes, and sorry, can I interrupt your report, but before the staff take off, on behalf of the board, to all of you staff that are in here with us on our regular meetings and those that aren't able to join us, we do thank you. We know there's been some rocky times. There's also been some great successes and positive things that have been happening at the same time that may not be heard about as much, but please know that this board especially recognizes the work that all of you are doing and how important all of that is to keeping everything that the authority is supposed to be doing going. And we'll continue to work together to work all that up. So appreciate you guys starting your day with us up here. So thank you.
Thanks. And speaking of staff, I am so happy that we have Jill Radke, who's our new public affairs officer. So I'm going to have her stand and just say a few words. Oh, you have to.
Oh, I pressed this. First board meeting. Aloha kakahiaka, everyone. Thank you. Mahalo nui for the warm welcome. And I look forward to working with all of you. Thanks.
Thanks, Jill. Okay, I'm just quickly going to go through the CEO report and just some highlights. In your board packet found on under tab 6, you know, just wanted to go through the status of the HTA's 90-day action plan. we have 8 goals, and of the 8 goals, 3 have been completed. We are still, what's in progress is, continuing to build our team, working with team to become more efficient as we go forward. Also, we are looking at reviewing our policies and procedures. We started to identify new procedures to develop and also to start making revisions. We continue to improve our work and, creating efficiencies on our board and how we go forward. And also continuing to ensure effective tourism policy development, making sure that our staff are empowered to move forward with our strategic tourism management plan. Looking at our vacant positions, you just met Jill. We are also recruiting, or I think the recruitment is closed right now for our brand manager position, and staff is looking at targeting to have interviews next week. And regarding our chief stewardship officer, that position is position description is being reviewed, and we're hoping to fill it within the next it'll probably be after July. So that deadline that we're trying to make, we probably won't make that one. And with the Hawaii Convention Center rooftop project, we have begun to work with, or continue to work with DAGs in getting out the RFP for that. So please know that construction remains on target and that we are continuing to move that project forward, again, with DAGs and their Public Works Division. Some of the highlights that happened this past month is our partnership with the LA Rams. And to that, I just like Milton to just say a few words regarding the LA Rams and, how that week went.
Absolutely. Aloha, board members, Chair. Thank you so much for this quick opportunity. Just a quick follow-up. The Rams, the Los Angeles Rams, Maui camp went really well. We had a lot of good positive feedback regarding this partnership with the Los Angeles Rams. It was a 3-day event with a welcome opening at the welcome reception that was held at the Wailea Beach Resort, Marriott, Maui. The reception went off really well. A lot of good feedback from the players, the coaches, families that attended, the staff. And then the next 2 days with the camp on Tuesday and Wednesday was really well attended. Lots of visitors, residents that attended with their families, children's, also with the girls' flag football. We had a lot of good opportunities to really promote Maui for travel. In fact, we did in collaboration with HVCB, we were able to promote Maui travel, Maui Visitors Bureau site, and coming over to just a lot of the promotions that was held on the Rams site as well. So it was a lot of good exposure for Maui. But all in all, the event went really well. It was well attended. Everyone enjoyed it. The experience, the neighbors, the neighbor islands, the county that attended, the mayor's office. So we had a lot of good responses. Thank you for that opportunity. We appreciate it. Mahalo.
Thanks, Milton. And regarding our $6 million U.S. Maui emergency marketing campaign, HVCB has been executing it. There's a paid media program that's running in May and June. The call to action was Hawaii special offers. Again, this is targeting the West Coast consumers. And a second paid media flight will run again in August through October. And just some things with our stewardship team, the Umeke community programs. For this program, the staff have been reviewing proposals, and we're all set to make the awards. And for the Climb High program, which is the program that, inspires children, or not children, high school students, that, encouraging them to get interested in going to our visitor industry. That event completed in May, and we're getting the statistics on this program right now. So with that, I am going to stop here, and if anyone has any questions regarding staff's efforts this month.
Questions? David?
Yes. Caroline, I had a couple of several questions, and this is on that checklist, status of 90-day action plan. And on item number, and some of this was presented, you presented to the legislature at the briefing earlier this week. Item number 2, reduced overdue invoices. And when is, this says reduced, so yes, it's been reduced, but when are they going to be resolved? And do you have a date to be, are we going to change this item since it's completed to get up to date on the overdue invoices?
So
Will
all,
be-
thanks for the question. So all of the invoices that were deemed overdue, this is specifically HVCB and Kilohana invoices. They have all been, or I'm sorry, they are either running through the process or they have been paid. And so, we have checked in with HVCB and Kilohana, and they agree that we have no outstanding invoices with them.
Okay, they're in the process. It's not been resolved. What about the $780,000 interest payment? Has that been resolved?
So, yes, so,
Okay, has the board voted on it? Because, okay, so, Mr. Chair, I don't want to get into this, but this can be for the next board or for DBED, because what was presented at the informational briefing is that they're taking out that $780,000 from their existing contract. So their existing contract has existing work to do, HVCB. They're not going to do it, and instead we're paying for interest out of their existing contract. The board never approved that, right? The board never approved that, and I don't know if it's the board's issue to approve at this point, because we've changed to an advisory board. So we'll take that off the record. I just want to raise that, and in the interest of transparency and truthfulness, we should give the public and the board members clear indication of the status of these issues. The also identify, item number 3, identify outstanding contractor issues.
So
And
David,
I would,
sorry, just a quick interruption, just to
Mhm.
my view of a correction to what you're saying that was said at Monday's hearing was not that it was being taken out of their contracts. It was being fit within the existing budget. And there's obviously a distinction of that. Now, how that affects their contract work was not discussed. And so I understand, to your point, that's something that we can have a discussion about and understand. And yes, it is a little bit of evolution as this board has become advisory as opposed to policy authority. So
okay.
with that, I'll allow you to continue. Thank you.
Yeah. If we existing budget, that's explosive. I did not know we had $780,000 in our budget to blow on interest, but anyway, whatever that is, can be handled later.
Excuse me, member,
yeah.
can you halt for a moment and allow Carolyn to address these in
Okay.
some manner if she understands how this is in the process? You said these are all being processed. So can you explain that process to us before we move on to the other items Member Arcao has?
yeah, sure. So for regarding the overdue invoices, when I say that it's in process, so it goes through many departments. So once it leaves HTA, it goes to the DAGs and all of that to get paid. So it's if it's not with HTA, it's with DAGs for the check to be cut.
Okay, is it gone from HTA? Have you processed it and moved it on to other departments as of today?
So as of today, I believe they are with another department. And I'm looking at Talon to make sure that's correct. All of
Talon, can you address this?
Sorry, can you repeat repeat the last part you were
Yeah,
saying?
the invoices that were late in payment, they're out of our agency and it's with another agency.
Right, correct. Either with DBED or DAGs.
Yeah, and the process is it goes to DBED, Caroline, first, and then it goes to DAGs. It doesn't go straight to DAGs.
So once it leaves our hands, do you track it? Do you know where it is at any one point? Because we're the ones who have the agreement with the contractor.
We track it, yes.
So that 780,000 talent, is that with DBED and DAGs right now?
Well, it's not like it's carved out of the payment. We just, I guess it's just included in the normal progress payments, which we are caught up on with HVCB.
So DBED and DAGs are reviewing the payment of $780,000 in interest payment to.
No, so it's not itemized on the invoice. This is for contracts or, for a project. This is for interest. It's just progress payment, X amount of dollars.
Okay, so it has left our office, that $780,000 interest payment to HVCB has left our office?
I'd like to make a correction. It's not 780. It's in total for the various, for both leisure and MCI, it's 482,000.
How did that correction occur?
So I'm happy to share, the Bureau reviewed their outstanding receivables and they said they came out to 482,000.
Did they provide you with documentary evidence or facts that support that?
They have provided us with information, yes.
Verbal or copies of the of invoice for interest paid on a line of credit or however they manage that?
So we'd be happy to provide the information to the board.
You'd want to keep that private? Is that what you're saying?
I don't have the information with me, so I would be happy to provide that to the board.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
And I'll just say this for background purposes. There's been hearsay that this has happened in the past before this, and that what HVCB has done is move elements within their contract to allow for the interest payment. So some work was left undone in order to pay the interest for our unpaid bills. Have you heard this before?
So I haven't heard that. I understand it as there was some cost savings and that they found funds that's within our fixed price contract with them to pay for this interest.
Okay, same issues, right? It's coming out of our contract with HVCB through cost savings, or they're not doing work, right? But I think, Mr. Chair, this is gonna be for further investigation. That 400, I just want to clarify, that 482,000 that HVCB says that we owe them in interest, that has the request for payment of that 482,000, that has left our office and it's with DBED or DAGs right now to pay that 482,000 in interest. That has left our office. Is that correct, Talon?
I would
Because
say,
we're making representations to the legislature and to the board and the public,
David,
right?
answer, please.
Okay.
when we talked to Tom Mullen about a week ago, we discussed all the payments that were overdue and we discussed the interest. And we all agreed that we were all caught up with the payments and that all of the interest would be contained within the current budget of the contract. Now, the final invoice, the final interest amount due, I believe we should still discuss because of things like interest rates, what the state's lawful interest rate is versus what they put on the invoice is very different. For example, they say 18%, but the state's rate is more closer to 9.7%. Now, with that being said, like Caroline's been saying, we all agreed that we're all caught up and that we paid them. So what the final amount is still to be determined in my, yeah.
So did the board vote in $482,000 in interest?
No.
Did the board vote on that?
No.
So how does it get paid if the board voted on the proposal? You know, every year HVCB gives us a proposal of what they plan to do that year and has costs associated to that. So we approve their program, right? You know, was $482,000 in interest part of that program that the board approved for HVCB?
No.
Okay, so the board never approved the payment of $482,000 in interest to HVCB, is that correct?
Correct.
And who told you, well, the decision that the board doesn't have to know about this or doesn't have to vote on it? Because we're just finding out because we're asking asking questions. So who made that decision that the board does not have to know about it and the board does not have to approve it? Who made that decision? Mr. Chair, Caroline, who made that decision? I'm the BFCC chair. Ms. Agas is the BFC budget vice chair, and we didn't know anything about this. So who made that decision to pay that? And it's obviously not in the original contract, and it's not in the, well, not in the original proposal for HVCB, I guess HVCB services for this year. So who approved that, and who made the decision not to inform the board? And if it needs further if you cannot answer right now, I have to research it, that's fine. You know, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if you need time to answer that, then that's fine. You know, I don't mean to, if you have the answer off the top of your head, fine. If not, we can wait, DBED and the future board can wait. So answer to be forthcoming, is that okay, or is that what you would rather say? You have to answer orally.
Yes.
Okay, and on the identifying outstanding contractor issues, I would take that to be procurement and contract violations. Is that what that item number 3 is on the checklist?
Item 3 on the checklist is about our contractors and if they have any outstanding issues regarding payment.
Oh, okay. Is procurement or contract violations anywhere on this? I apologize, I misunderstood. Are procurement violations and contract violations anywhere on this checklist?
On the goals,
Yes, yes.
are you specifically, I mean, I don't understand what you're asking about. So, you know, we know that there were contractor issues, outstanding issues. So we went to the Bureau and CNHA to see if they had any other outstanding ones, and they said no. I also asked staff to ask their contractors, to look through their contracts and see, are there anything else that's outstanding? And by teams, they also said there's no outstanding contractor issues.
Okay. Yes, contractor issues is a very vague term, but HTA had a number of procurement violations and suspected violations, and the former vice president of finance was investigating a number of violations, contract violations and procurement violations. Do those come anywhere under these goals? the procurement violations and contract violations.
So if you look at goal number 4, which is to ensure all policies and procedures are reviewed, updated, and followed by staff. So that's what we're looking at now, is how can we, as an agency, make sure that we don't have any procurement violations.
Okay, so Mr. Chair and Caroline, in the future or for a future board, can we please be more transparent and either put another line item here on procurement violations and another clearing up procurement violations, maybe another line item on clearing up contract violations, and not hide it or bury it in item number 4. Somebody reading number 4 will never get the idea or will never understand that we have procurement violations and contract violations, serious, over millions of dollars, right? You know, so that's just going forward. That would be our recommendation for transparency and to improve how HTA does business, and you know,
Just
to make sure.
you know, Chair, board member, the procurement violations are posted on hand, so it is transparent.
Posted on hand.
on
What is hand?
So that's the website where procurements are done. I believe it's posted. That's what I saw in the report.
Okay, so if you're in a position, interesting position, that the board members, if they want to know about it, should go on a different website. That's a very interesting position taken by HTA, that we will not discuss it, we will not disclose it in meetings.
David, I'm going to stop you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think anything's being hidden. If you wanted an update on the procurement violations in the CEO report, you could have asked for it. This list of goals was presented to the board in the past 2 meetings, and this question was never brought up to include that. So I completely fine with you asking for that information to be included in future updates or even added to these goals, but to classify it as being hidden is a very different allegation. And no question, these issues have been publicly discussed in your committee and at the board meetings in the past. So just be careful with that.
But I want to be very careful because we put it on the agenda, right? And Chair, you know this for a fact. Right? Those 2 issues, procurement violations and contract violations, that senior, or excuse me, HT leadership have been taken off our agenda. Ask several people to ask the budget committee to take those 2 matters off the agenda because it made HT look bad. You know that for a fact. You know for a fact. Okay, you know for.
Don't tell me that I knew that for a fact because I didn't know that. David.
We submitted to you. I submitted to you a request to put those 2 items on this agenda, right? And it's not on this agenda. So anyway, you know, the facts are the facts. My last question, and this is not necessarily a question, but going forward, is item number 9 on the checklist. Establish an administrative framework to oversee and manage the Hawaii Convention Center roof repair project. The Committee on Budget, Finance, and Convention Center never had a presentation or hasn't been informed of this process. So going forward, if there is such a, so it's interesting to see that it's completed here when the very committee that's overseeing this hasn't had a presentation on that. So anyway, going forward, Mr. Chair and Caroline, that would be a reasonable thing, I think, if there's such a committee that covers the convention center. Don't put it on that it's completed in this report when the very committee that's supposed to be handling that has no idea what it is, right? Thank you.
Further questions on the CEO report?
If I may, based on this back and forth, well, David's interrogatories, let me say that as a member over the past year, I cringe every time Member Arakawa brings up procurement violations because it sounds, and it is, serious. and it goes on the public record each time. I wasn't at the May meeting. I can't tell you in February, March, April, how many times I heard him bring up procurement violations, but it was not zero. It was more than one and perhaps many. Do a word cloud search in our minutes. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. My memory, again, imperfect. But procurement violations has been a constant topic as an issue on this, with this board. So all due respect to the chair, I don't think that it's the first time we've heard this. And I do think it's incumbent upon the CEO to resolve these issues specifically to the board's satisfaction. Thank you.
So to your point, it's been on our agenda, it's been out there. So that's why I got a little offensive with it being saying it was being hidden. That said, I'll recognize that Carolyn, as our interim CEO, stepped into this position on April 15th. All of these procurement violation issues happened well before that point. And so appreciate that it needs to be resolved and that authority, leadership, and team needs to resolve that and inform the board and the public about those resolutions. I also need to recognize that brand new interim CEO that's been put this along with a number of other things onto her plate to deal with, as well as the fact of the, I'll call evolution that's happening based on the new law that passed that the governor signed in regards to who's now responsible for that. And part of this, and I'll raise this, is that it's a discussion I want to have with DBED director because they're the ones now in charge of this and need to guide those resolutions as opposed to the board. The board can provide advice on it and should ultimately be informed about it. But I want to make sure that DBED has the opportunity to shape that up and figure things out within themselves as well. As you may have heard Director Tokioka testify at the informational hearing on Monday, they have a fantastic procurement team at DBED. And so allowing them to get deeper involved in figuring out what happened to those past ones, and therefore then being able to help Caroline and the authority solve whatever needs left to be solved, I think is going to be an important thing. We'll give them the time in order to do that before we try to dive into how it should be done or what should be done. So, Jim.
Yeah, so when an employee leaves frequently, or at best, you have an exit interview. Okay, this board should have an exit interview. And we are making a transition as of this meeting. But reputationally speaking, this is on us. This occurred on our watch. And so I don't think we get to say, well, we're an advisory board now, so we were not culpable, I'm sorry, responsible, hopefully not culpable for these things. So that was what drives my concerns and my follow-up questions, Chair.
And completely fair statement and agree, given the timing of when they happened, but it's also the situation that the authority and power to deal with them have been taken away from this board at this point. So we need to mesh through that as we move forward. Other questions on the CEO report? Checking up on the screen.
I have one from online. The question from an attendee is, could the public get a clarification on whether or not the $482,000 was calculated as interest, a part of a bill that was already paid?
And unless anyone has a definite answer, I think it's a question that we ought to involve HVCB in that understanding. So it's something that whether it can happen later today or at our next board meeting, we'll take the question and make sure we have the right answer to put out publicly.
And then I also have a reminder, board members, can you please make sure to not stand too close to the microphone? It does cut out the audio for our online attendees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for the CEO report? If not, thank you. We'll move on to the board chair report. Just a few quick things. First of all, I want to thank board member Roy for the mango bread that we have for us as a snack here in the room. Thank you very much. I'm going to jump back to something that was covered in the CEO report and covered by Milton and highlighted a little bit more because while it was a nice presentation, I think it was still a little bit understated. The mini camp efforts that happened on Maui last week with the LA Rams was absolutely fantastic. And I also wanted us to remember that it's the beginning of the partnership with the Rams that will run throughout their season, including a takeover day where Hawaii and Hawaii tourism will be the focus point for game day at SoFi Stadium. But we talk about the need to both brand Hawaii as a job of HT as well as impact our communities. And while I didn't get to see the practice sessions, what I've heard not only from HTA board members that were able to be there, HTA staff, but also others, both out in the community and at the legislature. I think if you watched some of Monday's hearing, Senator DeCoit mentioned it as well. The impacts on that community were fantastic. Everything from the broader community of the Rams being there to those that were able to attend their practice sessions, and for Maui residents to be able to see a professional team and their work in person on the field. Not something that happens very much, if at all. But again, probably the most impactful stories I've heard were the youth, right? Everything from the younger youth through the high school, football players, flag football teams, being able to participate with stars of the NFL. The stories of Puka running around with the girls' flag football team, running patterns, catching passes, interacting with them, and throwing his shoes off and running around with them barefooted, and not just for 5 minutes, but for a long period of time of interaction is a huge impact, and something that we talked about when that program was before the board and we were deciding whether it was an appropriate way to spend HTA money. We also had, well, I also want to say thank you and congratulations to Milton. Milton put in a ton of time and effort, everything from him coming in the door while the contract was still being put together and finalizing those details, through everything that you can imagine has to happen from a planning standpoint to get to the events of the week, through running through every event and the changes that can happen, sometimes on purpose, sometimes completely by accident. But he and Jill and Caroline being there and the other staff members that were there through different events, being ready to take the input, figure out what was needed and pivot in order to make sure that things continued to be successful both for the team and the community was huge. I'm just pausing to make sure this is an accurate statement. I really have not heard any negative or even questionable issue with the events that happened for the community on Maui through those. So I really wanted to take some time to continue to highlight the fact that this was a great showing both for the brand marketing efforts, but as well as the community efforts. The other aspect of this was the Rams put on sweepstakes, one in Southern California, one in Japan, to have fans come join the events. And so at the welcome event, I got to meet both the Japan two that were there as well as the California two. And they were just over the top of being able to be at a welcome luau with the Rams sitting all around them, being able to then attend the practices in the coming days. And again, that word of mouth and what the roots of the success that grow from those 4 people that were able to be a part of that, I think was also huge. The last thing I'll add on to it is I want to thank Milton because I know he led getting this done, and Jill helping as well. But Hawaii News now going on the road and being in Maui, finding a partner in Outrigger. And so they filmed a bunch of the live morning pieces from Outrigger out in Kaanapali, but also obviously picked up a lot of coverage of the events themselves back in Wailuku area. Again, great exposure for what was being done there. And I think carrying this into, along with the $6 million effort in Southern California for the emergency effort, is all what comes together in bringing both the brand marketing side of the work, along with the marketing side of getting heads in beds. So I'll stop there, but really want to thank everyone that was involved, including board member Mufi, who started this, Department Chair Director Tokioka, who really made sure that this worked and got put together in the end so that everything could happen. The other one I wanted to touch on that was, again, part of the CEO report was a convention center rooftop work. So again, I really appreciate the fact that Keith Regan was able to join us at the last meeting, the work that has continued to happen between him and Caroline and everyone else that's involved, and Terry, to make sure this stays on track. The piece I wanted to bring up is that while you may have heard that there's some delays in the first steps of the RFP, given DAG's involvement and their needing to review contracts, the stress is that the end date is not going to change, right? And so while There's some wiggle room, obviously, and some effort that may change some dates at the start point of this. The clear focus by everyone, Caroline and the authority, Terry and everyone from the convention center, Keith and everyone that's working on it from DAGS, is that we need to maintain that end date. We cannot risk having that work not be completed in time for events and conventions to be able to be back in the convention center by the start of 2028. And so I want all of us, especially board members, to keep in mind, if you're hearing, whether it's talk on the street, talk with your friends, what we see in the media about certain things changing date-wise at the start of this, know that everyone is very well focused on the end date and making sure that happens. And also to that point, put on Caroline and everyone else that if we ever see that end date start to be at risk, that needs to be in front of all of us, who are, advisory board or otherwise, whoever the right us is at that point, to make sure those things are talked about and we find ways to solve that collectively before we run into issues on that. Those are the things I wanted to cover in the CEO report before we get to sub A. Any questions for me?
Chair, thanks. I apologize, but when you were covering this, I went back somewhat through the CEO report, and something popped up. Can I address this with Caroline at this moment? There's something in her CEO report? Thank you. Just being polite here. Don't want to pound the table unnecessarily. Caroline, on page 13 of your report, under planning, this is our ongoing governance study with Better Destinations. You state that you've procured facilitation services with Pacific Policy Research Center. This was something you did unilaterally as the CEO? I'm on the governance committee. I don't recall this coming up as in fact, the committee hasn't met in quite a while. So can you tell me more about who's Pacific Policy Research Center and how we got into this for our governance study without the committee being involved?
Under the planning.
Planning,
section,
yes, your old department. Yeah.
I'm still with the department. So,
Nobody ever gets out of here.
and I'm sorry for not covering this when I was speaking earlier. So under the planning section, and I wanted to mahalo Kendrick Liang, our planner, who has been shepherding this. So we have, as you know, in our, when was it? In our April board meeting, I had shared out that we would be, we're in the process of issuing out an RFP for a facilitation for our planning efforts to develop our strategic plan and our destination management action plans. So for our strategic plan, we awarded the contract to Better Destinations, and they are also the company who wrote the governance study. So they're going to be assisting us as we develop our strategic plan. As far as the facilitation of our community meetings, our industry stakeholder meetings, we have right now, we selected Pacific Policy Research Center to do that type of facilitation. Vice Chair Paishan was on that evaluation committee. And currently,
I'm sorry, this was the executive committee that made this decision?
Right, so yeah, hang on.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify to make sure to get an answer to
Yeah,
your question.
thanks.
These selections of the entities that are listed in this description of the planning section, those were done via RFP and through
Correct.
the procurement
yeah,
process.
sorry, yeah.
So it wasn't a board decision. The board had made the decision to move forward with the RFPs, but the selections were based on a procurement process.
All right, so for this ongoing utilization of the governance study, the committee and the board no longer have involvement in the decisions for execution is because it's through a procurement procedure now? There's no policy involved?
So this is, oh, sorry, you want to go ahead? You can go ahead.
So I was invited myself as well as member Iona to participate in a committee that would review the the prospective applicants for the.
Sorry, just going to stop to make sure we're all clear. That committee was part of the procurement process. It was a
Correct.
selection.
Part of
committee
the
under
procurement
the
process.
process. Thank you.
Part of the procurement process, not affiliated with the governance study as well, or our governance pig. And so being a part of that process, the governance study did not come up as part of our review process at all. So that's all I want to say.
So,
Hang on, David, hang on. Does that answer your question? No,
It brings up some others, but but I'll cede the floor to Member Arakawa who wanted to ask something.
yeah. So I think this might be what Member McCully was going to ask. The criteria and the scope of that RFP, was that voted on or reviewed by the board? Because it is our strategic plan going forward, right? So was the criteria and scope of a future strategic plan for the next 5 years from 2025 to 2030, was that voted on and approved by this board? It
Yes.
was.
It was
Was it?
presented in one of our earlier board meetings. I made a presentation on both the DMAPs and the strategic plan, both at Ho'okahua and our board meeting.
So the board approved the scope of that contract.
Yes.
So that's the scope
The,
of
the
this,
scope, sorry.
the
they
RFP,
approved-
scope of
They
the RFP.
approved the elements that would be going into the strategic plan and the DMAPs.
Okay. Okay, I'll take that elements, but elements does not equal,
But the
we
board
know
does-
scope. And
The board doesn't usually approve the scope of work in any RFP that staff has put out.
all right.
So David, this is in line with the discussion we had at the Capitol on
Right,
Monday.
right,
is that
right.
The board approved the program. The hard copy handout was sent to the board at the committee level first and then to the full board. It was asked whether there were any comments or questions on it. And ultimately, the board approved to move forward with that plan. It's then the staff's job to implement that plan via part of it, putting out this RFP to select a vendor in order to assist in that process. And the scope of that work was within the plan that this board, plan program that this board approved. Again, as we had that discussion Monday, if the board or board members, let's assume all this change hasn't happened, wants to review individual contracts line by line, they're welcome to do that. But that has not been the normal practice either at this authority, I believe, nor any of the boards that I have been on. And so the board's duty at the level the board's at is to approve those programs and expect staff to implement and complete those efforts within the approvals that were set by the board. Mahina.
So Chair, just wanted to confirm and verify that procurement procedure and process was followed with this particular RFP.
Yep, with all of these three RFPs that the planning section did, the procurement team was with us the whole way.
And yes, and the procurement officer, the assigned
Yes.
procurement officer was presiding over all of
Yeah.
those meetings as well. Thank you.
So I see in your report for executed contracts, a contract with Better Destinations for 105,000, correct?
Yes,
Okay, this contract type, that's the 137, that's the accumulation of the contracts you awarded. Where's the specific policy? Is that on this next page?
On the bottom. Page 15 on the bottom.
Yeah. How much was that contract? Was that embedded in the Better Destinations 105,000?
I'm sorry, that contract wasn't finalized yet. So that's why, I mean, it wasn't executed by the time of this report.
Oh.
So that's why it's not on this table, but
Oh.
will be at the next board meeting.
Okay, and do you know how much it is off your top of your head?
Sorry, I don't know off the top of my head how much that one is. It's,
About the same as the governance group?
no, it's. yeah,
Okay,
no, it-
something
It's a
sim-
little bit more than, I think it's 140 something thousand.
Oh, it is. So it's quite a bit more than Better Destinations development of the strategic plan. So,
Yeah.
but combined, the two are about $250,000
Roughly.
roughly. So almost the cost of the governance study, which was 300.
But this isn't a study, this is,
I know, I understand, but
Okay.
I'm just trying to keep things in some
Mhm.
sort of a basic understanding, yeah, of how much we're spending to try to change the understanding of how we govern tourism here in our state. Thank you.
Any other questions for the board chair report? If not, we'll move on to item 7A, which is report and update on the search for this HTA president and CEO. I'm going to ask that because we have some personnel elements to discuss in that we take this into executive session and go ahead and do it now. I will put a goal out for those, especially those here in person, that we're going to try to accomplish this in 15 to 20 minutes. So not hoping not to go an hour and make all of you wait to come back in, but that's going to be the goal. I'm going to ask that the executive session include Caroline and Director Tokioka is here as well, that they both be included in the executive session. I do expect that we will probably take a part of that executive session without Caroline as well. So with that, and for personnel purposes, John, if you could articulate going into executive session. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, assume you need a motion before discussion. I will so move. I'll move for you.
Is there a
Thank you.
second?
Okay.
Second. Thank you, John.
Yes, we would be entering executive session under HRS section 92.5A 2 to consider the hire and evaluation possibly of employees, and their privacy interests may be affected.
Thank you. It's been moved in second. Any discussion? If not, can we have a roll call vote to move into executive session?
Yes. Chair Apo.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Chair Paishon.
Aye.
Member Agas. Member Arakawa.
Aye.
Member Hanneman and Iona are excused. Member Macaulay.
Aye.
Member Paulson.
Hi, and I need an executive panel link. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll send that shortly. Member Fun. Thank you. Member West.
Aye.
And lastly, Member White.
Aye, and I also need the link. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, good to go.
Okay, the motion passes. Yes, for those two of you online, we'll get links out. So I didn't give the staff the heads up that we'd be heading for executive session, so that hadn't gone out ahead of time. So those will be coming to you, and we will start the executive session as soon as you guys are both back online. Until then, we stand in recess.
Well, I guess it's just the two of us.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad I didn't fly in today. I've got to actually hop off by 12:31, so.
Well, hopefully it won't take that long, but. Maybe they're taking their lunch break.
It could be and not let us know. It's fine. I've been texting my team, please somebody throw food at me. I'm hungry. Oh, goodness. It is so dry in Paia. I'm nervous. How's Haiku?
It's drying out so fast up here. A lot of trade winds with no rain is not helpful.
No, no. And I saw that gulch fire in Haiku. What was it, last weekend?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little spooky, when we're surrounded by sugarcane, you were fairly safe because those guys knew how to do fires.
Yep.
So is the land relatively cleared of brush upwind, around Paia?
It is. We've got a lot of cattle surrounding Kuau Bay View where I live, but
Good.
our yard is dead. All of our shrubbery is just, I mean, the only thing that's surviving right now is the naupaka.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's scary. Every time I hear the fire trucks come out of the Paia fire station, I'm like,
Yeah. My wife is on pins and needles over fire. So,
yeah. Mm,
well, shall I text Carol and see if they're taking a lunch break?
yeah. Oh, they're back, Mike.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Thank you. All right, calling the meeting back in order. We are in regular session, just for the record. So in regards to what was covered in executive session, the board had the discussion in regards to the process and details around selecting a new CEO. I think where we finished with that is the existing PIG, Permitted Interaction Group, for the CEO selection will be meeting shortly to make sure everything is aligned, including the contract with the selection, with the search firm, in order to move that forward as expeditiously as possible. The board also discussed on the shorter term in this period that from this point until we were able to select the permanent CEO, just how leadership is set up and how we move forward with leadership position at HTA during the interim. Based on that, we did have what I'll call a review and given feedback to interim CEO Caroline Anderson, especially given the events of this week and others, just to give some board feedback in regards to leadership and her work at HTA. Okay, good. All right, with that, we're going to move on to agenda item 8, report and update on SB 1571. Now, there's an act number, I'm sure. And John, I'll let you share a few things. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, I know there's been some questions about how this is going to work and be implemented. I'll just go over a few things briefly and then take questions if about what I've mentioned, or if you have other questions that I didn't mention, it'd be fine. Given the act that is now law, the board is now advisory, but the statute also has specific explicit decision-making authority in some matters that the board is still under statute obligated to do. So for those things, or I guess what I would say is that means the board is not solely advisory. They also make decisions. And most of those have to do with the president and CEO, including selecting and submitting the nominee to the governor and also setting the CEO's, duties, responsibilities, and other things relating to the job and the length of service that they will have. A couple of other things that the board is still has explicit authority to do. One is to approve appointments of officers and agents. And another one that going through the statute, saw still is explicitly under the board is the determination of a tourism emergency like that happened after the Lahaina wildfires. So it'd still be up to the board to make that determination and then request that the governor, declare that there is a tourism emergency. And like in the Lahaina fire, it would be included in emergency proclamations if necessary, and also relate to the use of the Tourism Emergency Special Fund. Outside of that, there have been questions about, the committee structure of the board and how that continues. And basically that's up to the board itself. And you can take guidance from staff and the CEO about what their needs are. But if, like with the board in the past, if there's a lot of things that need discussion and information, you can assign committees to, look at those things and bring it back to the full board. And like the committees are now, they recommend, and then they would recommend to the board to recommend to the CEO and staff to do these things. But similarly, it's up to the board whether they want to form committees and the duties or areas that they want them to look into. And there was also questions about bylaws. Our current bylaws, some of it might, would need to be changed because it does have the committee structure and some other things in there that the board decides, which it will no longer be deciding. So the board itself can have bylaws and the organization itself could have bylaws or, just the policies and procedures applicable to it. So that would be up to the board for its own bylaws and, staff and the CEO and director and governor as to the organization itself.
Okay. And so I'll share a couple of my thoughts as one on that last piece. I think because there are a set of powers that this board still has, and it's not a purely advisory board, that there is probably a right set of at least bylaws to manage that, but also perhaps some committee level work. So it's something I'll say we can take up, and that's, I guess, the other one. And another one, just to clarify, not specifically on 1571, but we've all heard governors plan on sending out letters asking for voluntary resignations. You talked about this a little time, but just to reiterate, governor does not have the authority to require resignations, but is always able to request voluntary resignation. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And
then
go ahead. No, I was just going to say, that's one of my concerns, been looking into this, and it's been brought up several times here. If a majority of the board does resign, I mean, there's going to be some lag in the work, CEO selection and stuff. One of the critical ones that want to be hurried along that may be delayed because of that. So I'm not sure how the governor or you folks want to handle it, but that is something to think about in deciding.
And that was the
what
other
to
part why I sort of asked you that question. So quorum for this board is 7 members. It's not a 50% type of situation. So if the board membership became 6 because of resignations, the board would not be able to have quorum to take any action. So it's your point. I think governor's office is aware of this and will factor that into their efforts. Any other questions to John in regards to what he reported? David?
Just quickly, and I think we know the answer to this. If the governor asks for resignations, if a majority or everybody resigns, it's up to the governor to say, okay, but I will accept your resignation at the end of July, or as of, I'm going to hold you over, I'll accept it until whatever date. That's within the governor's power, correct?
He can, yes, he can request a certain date, or board members can offer a certain date. I
Right.
mean, if you want to try to get through the CEO selection process first, there should be some kind of agreement to.
Okay, yeah,
maybe-
that was the question, just so that we could do a little, the board can do a little business under the circumstances. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Quick question. What are the budget approval implications with the new law?
I don't think it changes a lot. I mean, the board, as it formerly was, would review the budget committee brought it to.
So hang on, let me, so you're talking about approval of HTA's budget? Correct. So my understanding from talking both with governor's office and with DBED director is that the board no longer has authority to approve HTA's budget. The governor has directed DBED director to approve HTA budget. So whether that falls within the governor's office or department, that's how it is being handled. It is not within the purview of the board at this point, and Caroline has been in those discussions as well.
No. And I just want to clarify that it always was up to the DBED director. I mean, HTA can set a budget and present that to the DBED director, but it was always within his
Sure.
kuleana to make adjustments given the department.
And I heard you guys had that discussion in here before.
But anyway,
Yeah.
it was always kind of,
Okay,
a step
thank you.
in the process.
Other questions? If not, John, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Item number 9, report on the Hawaii Tourism Authority's May 2025 financial reports. Talon.
Mr. Chair, we're going to approve these, right? Is that the idea? Make a motion?
Sure, we can make a motion.
Yeah?
The whole.
Or you know what,
like I
yeah.
said,
No man's land. Okay, got it. Okay, so at this time, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Hawaii, to approve the Hawaii Tourism Authority's HTA's May 2025 financial reports. Motion to recommend approval. And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so presentation by Mr. Talon Kishi, who is he's the acting vice president of finance for HTA. Mr. Kishi.
Okay, aloha members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to present HTA's May 2025 monthly financial results. So today I'll be starting off with our fiscal year 2025 budget for the period July 1, 2024 to May 31, 2025. Year-to-date expenditures, we have $45,308,000. We have an encumbrance balance of $12,648,000. Year-to-date expenditures plus an encumbrance balance gives us total funds used of $57,957,000. And out of our $63 million budget, we have an unused balance of $5,042,000. We are working on utilizing most of those funds by the end of the fiscal year. We're just tying up some loose ends, filling up some final paperwork to get those funds encumbered. Does anyone have any question on our fiscal year 2025 tourism budget? No questions? All right, so the next slide is just a summary of our sports and signature events over the past 2 fiscal years. No real changes from the prior month. And then the next slide is our fiscal year 2025 convention center budget. No real changes from the prior month. We have $31,756,000 of expenditures, an encumbrance balance of $2,243,000. And out of our $34 million budget, we have utilized all of our funds, so we're on track. And any money left over in our operations, we will transfer that over to our repairs and maintenance fund once the fiscal year is closed out. And moving on to our other funds. Our fiscal year 2024 Tourism General Fund, we have year-to-date expenditures of $8,053,000, a fund balance of $137,000, and an encumbrance balance of $137,000. Moving on to our Tourism Special Fund, which was repealed back in January 2022. We have year-to-date expenditures of $408,000, year-to-date interest income of $377,000, a cash balance of $8,376,000, an encumbrance balance of $296,000, and an unavailable balance for spending of $8,080,000. I am working on returning those funds to Budget and Finance. I expect that transfer to be completed in early July. And then moving on to our Convention Center funds. For our fiscal year 24 Convention Center funds, we have year-to-date expenditures of $1,019,000 and a fund and encumbrance balance of $1,058,000. I believe I was able to close out fiscal year 2024 for the Convention Center, and the rest of the funds, the $1,058,000, that will be transferred to our repair and maintenance fund. And then lastly, our Convention Center Enterprise Special Fund. We have year-to-date revenue of $16,341,000. That includes $11 million of TAT, $3,956,000 of net profits from HCC operations, and then $1,384,000 of interest income. That leaves us with a fund balance of $32,339,000. And of that, we have to still transfer $11 million to Budget and Finance. That is to pay them back for our fiscal year 2024 operations, which they supported back then. And that should be completed in fiscal year 2026 when our allotment is released. And then this is just a summary of our Maui Tourism Emergency Plan. That was from the Tourism Emergency Special Fund. We've since completed the plan, and we spent $4,993,000. Does anyone have any questions on the Tourism Emergency Plan out of the special fund? Nope. And then just a summary of our EDA tourism grant. We have total expenditures to date of $6,856,000, an encumbrance balance of $4,343,000. And then that equals total used funds of $11,200,000. And out of our $14,024,000 budget, we still have $2,824,000 available. Does anyone have any questions on our EDA state tourism grant? No. And then lastly, our roof repair project. To date, we have spent $3,018,000 on professional services. We have an encumbrance balance of $3,635,000. That gives us a total used funds of $6,654,000. And out of our $64,608,000 budget, we still have $57,953,000 remaining for construction services. And if there's no questions, that concludes my presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Any questions by board members online or present? Any questions on the online?
No questions online.
Okay, are there any objections or abstentions? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Chair, I believe the motion for the recommendation is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on quickly to the next one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, wait, David, hang on. So, yeah, so that finishes item number 10, right?
Yes.
Nine.
Nine.
Sorry, nine. So before we move on to 10, I want to recognize that Board Member Hanneman has joined us online as well. So I wanted to do that recognition. Moving on to item number 10.
Thank you. And again, because our status as an advisory board is up in the air, so we're just going to have a motion to recommend approval of the Hawaii Convention Center's May 2025 financial report and update on the Convention Center's 6-year repair and maintenance plan. So do we have a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So may we have a presentation, please, by Ms. Terry Orton, General Manager of the Hawaii Convention Center.
Good afternoon, board members, chair and vice chair. Okay, I'll make this quick because I know it's been a long morning. So I am going over our financials for May of 2025. And let's see here. What? Where is it? Oh, here it is. Got it. Okay, for the month ending May 31st, we wrapped up one of the busiest months of the year for the convention center. The Hawaii Convention Center had back-to-back citywide events as well as local events. Noteworthy is the Hawaii Convention Center hosted 3 repeat citywide events, including International Society of Magnetic Renaissance and American Association of Immunology, as well as Global Dance and Cheer, along with 20 other local events. I'm sorry. Okay. In the column to the far left, total facility revenue for the month was $2.3 million, which exceeded our budget by $69,000, which gave us a net loss of $109,000 for the month, which was $19,000 better than we had planned for May. With one more month remaining in the fiscal year, in the second column here, I just wanted to highlight that HCC is projecting to close with a gross revenue of $27.1 million against a net loss, which is bringing us to a net loss of $974,000 for the year, which is $2.2 million better than our budget, and a savings and less subsidy for the state. So this is my Christmas gift to Mari, because this savings is going back to capital improvement projects. So you're welcome, Mari. And kudos to the team for the great work that they're doing. And that was in comparison to the $3.2 million budget that we had. Moving on, so you ask, what is the ROI to the state? So for every dollar spent at the convention center, we are currently returning $14.07 to the state. And there you can see the running total of citywide events that we had hosted, and that is contributing to our overall ROI to our state. Just a quick highlight here, total citywide bookings that we are servicing here at the Convention Center for our fiscal year is a total of 18 citywides, which is roughly about 67,000 delegates or attendees. Contracted room nights, just a little over 100,000 room nights for the state. And then economic impact, a little over 388 million, and tax generation 45.4 million to the state. So it's a very, very good year and strong year for citywides. You can see here, I just wanted to highlight, you see total under the column, total bookings per each year. 26 and 27 will be entering into a modified event schedule. Those citywide events that are on this schedule will be removed. I'm happy to say that with the assistance of the Bureau, we were able to move all of the business in 26 to future years and or self-contain at hotels in Waikiki. And in 2027, we had roughly about 12 citywides that we had to move. And I am positive that I can say I would roughly about 10 to 11 have either self-contained, moved to a future year, and we're still working on a couple others. Rotary being our largest, they have just recently advised us that they're looking at committing to 2032, I believe. And they're going to be moving to another city for the upcoming 2027 year that they had on our books. So not a complete loss. They're just pushing out to a future year. We're still working on a few others, but for the most part, I really want to just give kudos to Lynn and her team because they really worked hard on trying to save the business that they work so hard to put on our books, whether it's to keep it self-contained at hotels, push it out to a future year. They really did a good job in saving whatever business that we did have on the books. So I would say, if any, I think we may have not been able to put one or two pieces of business on the books for future year that we had to relocate for those 2 years, which is quite good turnout. So we're able to salvage most of that business. Just some recent events that we had here at the convention center. I mean, it was graduation season and we had a lot of commencement ceremonies here at the convention center. Here are just a few that we wanted to highlight. In addition to that, Global Dance and Cheer, which was a citywide event that we had. And then, of course, more sports event, Aloha Region. We had volleyball and basketball as of recent. Upcoming events, we have World Glaucoma in-house right now, roughly about 2,500 attendees. We just had their pre-event meeting this week. They're very excited to be here. That was long awaited. We had secured this business sometime before 2020, so we're excited to have them in-house. And here are just a few other events that we have coming up in the next few months. Just a quick update and highlight on the next 3 months. We closed our fiscal year in June. So you can see there we closed out, we're closing out with a few local events for each month and a couple citywides for each month as well. And you can see just their logos there at the bottom. We'll skip this. I was recognized for Asian American and Pacific Islander trade show publication, really just highlighting how culture drives everything that we do here in Hawaii, and just diversity amongst our employees and everything that we do here in Hawaii is what makes us so special. So that's what I touted about in this article. If you're bored and you want to Google that, please do. Our carbon offset program, happy to say we're closing out the year with just shy of 600 trees that we've planted. So we're very proud of the sustainability initiatives that we are putting out here at the convention center. On the left of the screen, you can see this is some of the organizations that participated in our carbon offset program. Of course, always supporting local farmers. I just want to highlight this every month because this is a percentage that we're trying to grow, and that is the amount of produce that we purchase here locally versus from the mainland. And happy to say that we are currently running an average of 25% of all produce that we purchase in the building is being purchased here locally. And you can see the breakout here by month. Okay, and I'm going to run quickly in essence of time because I know that we want to keep this short, run through some of our repairs and maintenance. We are in the process of installing our new exhibit, Papa He'enalu, which is our surfboard exhibit. Pohaku Stone has graciously partnered with us and is hand carving 14 surfboards for us, dating back as far as we could find at Bishop Museum. The first surfboard known to us here in Hawaii, and then basically just replicas of surfboards dating up to Duke Kahanamoku. So we are going to take all the surfboards in the water to get them wet, to baptize them. Once we dry them out, we will be mounting all of these surfboards in this exhibit. And this exhibit resides right outside of 320, our theater upstairs, right above us. So if you have a chance to go look at our exhibit as it evolves into completion. We do plan to have a blessing once the surfboards are dried, mounted, and we have all the plaque cards out. So we definitely will be working with HTA and the board to collaborate on that blessing for this exhibit. All of this information is in your board packets. I won't go through this in detail, but basically this is updates on major projects that we currently have, and some of our current projects broken out by different areas of improvement. And then, of course, our 6-year plan broken out by year, dollar amount, and estimated date of completion for your reading pleasure. And then, of course, all of the CIP projects that Mari and her team have worked feverishly to complete in the past 4 to 5 years. So we are now working in collaboration with HTA and DAGS with the transition of moving this project over to DAGS for our rooftop repair. We've had several meetings, and so we are working on more of the administrative side of moving this project along, but to Todd's earlier comment, everyone's focus is on making sure that the end date doesn't move. So hopefully we can get this project moving along sooner than later, but we are off to a good start. And that's it for the convention center. Any questions for me or Mari?
And your last comment, not hopefully, we will get.
Yes, no, definitely.
The question I have is in regards to your FY financials. And first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Increased revenue, fantastic. Expenditures are probably going to be about a little less than $1 million more than budgeted. So the only question I have is that mainly because you've had more events than what was planned, or is there any other structural issue in regards to your operation that's caused higher operating expenses?
Yes, whenever we get, well, obviously when we have groups that come with more delegates than we had originally planned, staffing goes up. So usually our expenses are tied more to staffing increases, and it's because we have more groups. And it may not be directly tied to citywide. It could be local events that pop up that increase, which we incur more staffing.
Okay. So those expenses are basically the investment in order to get more,
Yes, yeah,
more events, more people, more revenue.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And I mean, you know, we're just shy. We're $900,000. I'm hoping that in this last month we close the margin to that and get closer to break even. My goal was to get to break even. I don't think we're going to make it this year, but it's okay. We're still saving the state money.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board, either here or online? Any questions by members online?
No questions online.
Okay, any objections or abstentions from the board? Hearing none, Mr. Chair, the motion to recommend approval of the convention center financial reports and maintenance 6-year repair and maintenance plan is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, members.
Moving item on to item 11, discussion of FY26 HTA budget, recognizing DBED's approval of the budget. So I think we discussed that as in the discussion with John, that it's not for our board to approve. I asked DBED director whether he was looking for any advice, opinions, thoughts from the board, and not at this point. There's obviously on such a short window given this transition timing in order to get it approved before the start of the fiscal year next week. They're moving forward with their efforts on that. The one thing I did want to note, because I know it's popped up a bit, is and I want to thank the Kilohana team for helping take care of this, right? But because the HTA budget had not been finally approved by whoever needs to approve it, they were not able to put out announcements in regards to OMEKE grants because they need to know exactly what dollar amounts are approved in order to award those grants. So I'm sure a bunch of us have all gotten reach outs since Kilohana was able to communicate with the applicants and trying to assure them that the budget will be approved before the start of the fiscal year. We understand that's going to cause a squeeze for some of the events that are happening in July, but there's no structural or other issues. It was just a matter of timing relative to the budget approval. Some of you may have heard Director Tokioka talk about, and I think Carol and I had this discussion, probably need to look at adjusting the timing of OMEKE grants going forward so that we don't run into this squeeze for our applicants and our nonprofits that are working on it going forward. So David.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we do have 2 guests here that may want to speak quickly.
We'll get the public testimony.
Okay,
Hang on.
all right.
So, but first I want to check with David, anything else from a budget standpoints you want to discuss? Okay. Any question from board members or thoughts? Okay, we do have public testimony first in person, so Rick, want to invite you up. Jay, you can help make sure you get that mic on.
Hello, board members and Chair, thank you for the opportunity. I'll be very brief. I know you're getting close to Pauhana. And I just want to say that it was actually in July of 1998 that I left state employ. And one of the last things we did was work on the creation of the Hawaii Tourism Authority. And I think in this last 27 years, the HTA has done a lot of great things. I want to, first of all, applaud you for all the accomplishments during that time, during the iteration that we've currently experienced. I realize we're now transitioning into a new direction, but I'm very optimistic that this new direction will be productive as well. Really, we're kind of coming full circle because when we created HTA, it was really a function of DBED, and now DBED is going to be much more involved. And so I think that that'll be a very positive thing. But I think one of the things that we just can't forget is all the great things that have been done by HTA and their staff and the board. So I want to say mahalo from all the people for representing myself as one of the people of the state of Hawaii. I think you've done great things, and the current difficulties, and there's always difficulties, there's always bumps in the road, but we move on to a new future, and I think that's going to be a bright one. So I want to thank you for all of your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier?
Yeah, please. Would you identify yourself? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Rick Igid, and I'm the president of the Waikiki Improvement Association. But during 1998, I was the Office of Planning Director under Governor Ben Cayetano. And we actually worked on the creation of the HTA at the recommendation of the Economic Recovery Task Force that was created at that time. We were experiencing great economic difficulties. And so one of the recommendations was that we create HTA, an organization dedicated to marketing, tourism, and of course, creating a positive tourism environment for our state.
Thank you. David.
Mr. Egged, do you have suggestions? I mean, the legislature just passed the green fee, right? The green fees, it's a TAT, or it's a tax on tourists. Do you have any suggestions on projects that green fee could go toward that would benefit both the community and the visitor industry?
Well, I think, and of course, I really can only rely on media reports, and I wasn't directly involved in these discussions. But I think that the idea that at least a portion of that green fee will be dedicated to improving tourism infrastructure to give us the ability to continue to react to things like climate change and the addition. We in Waikiki have a major project, the Waikiki Beach Restoration Project, which the idea is to bring back the beach between the Royal Hawaiian Groin and Fort DeRussy Groin. And there really, believe it or not, if you look at it today, there was a very viable beach there at one time. It's going to take some major effort and improvements to bring that beach back. That project has been approved. The beginning funding came out of this year's legislature, $5 million plus to do the planning, the final plans, and the permitting for the project. So it's in progress. I want to thank the governor and the legislature for their support, particularly our legislators. Senator Moriwaki and Representative Tam have really made sure that this project continues.
What about the Alawai watershed?
David, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Well, he's got a lot of expertise and would love to take it, but I think it's outside of our agenda item. So just want to be careful on this. So.
Yeah, again, from the legislature, funding was approved for the work on the Alawai debris management. We all realize how polluted the Alawai Canal is. It really shouldn't be allowed to continue this way. So I think the state is taking positive steps to bring that under control.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the testifier? If not, thank you, Rick. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Anyone else here wishing to testify? If not, checking anyone online.
No one online.
All right. All right. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 12, update on HTA's tourism guide certification curriculum and content development. The Kilohana team, welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, one more.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting for this to come out, just a quick point of information. I got texted by a procurement expert who told me that the HANDS program, the violations are posted on the State of Hawaii HANDS program, but that is not publicly available. The procurement violations on the HANDS program is not publicly available. So therefore, the importance of us taking this up in future meeting, or not us, but Hawaii Tourism Authority or some public body taking it up. It's just an internal reporting system for the State Procurement Office. Point of information. Thank you. That's all.
And if I could follow up, then that means we don't have access to it either. Clarity. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, board members. Kai'ini with Kilohana to report on the tour guide certification program that we have been working on. Oh, okay, there we go. And to give you guys a brief background on where we started and how we ended up with the curriculum that we have successfully turned over to HTA. Back in fall 2023, we partnered with Edith Kanakaole Foundation to help us develop curriculum design and what this tour guide certification course would encompass. From there, we drafted program elements that are place-based and incorporate ike kupuna from each ahupua'a. We held meetings with the local workforce in those areas to develop programs to explore the need of tour operators. And then we also looked at the different partnerships with Hawaii cultural practitioners, tour guides, tour operators, and tour guides. We were also asked to look at the basic manual for Hawaii's tourism drivers and guides, and this was a tour guide curriculum that was developed back in November 1993. With that, we also met with other indigenous groups and leaders of 3 Native American tribes, Nevada's Indian Territory, Alaska Native Heritage Center, and Isleta Resort and Casino, to look at how are they developing curriculum for their tour guides when they welcome their visitors. And then in the fall of 2024, we ended our partnership with Edith Kanakaole Foundation, and then we started the next phase of the curriculum development stage, which was getting the curriculum online and then hosting a stakeholder engagement session so that we can get more input on the types of information that we wanted to provide to our tour guides. So what Trip School did for us was they took everything that we've developed as far as the curriculum and they put it into an online platform, which is the interface that you see here, pictured here. From there, we collaborated with HVCB to get a list of 70+ stakeholders and subject matter experts to be included in the curriculum. Then we interviewed over 20 stakeholders and subject matter experts to give more specific input in each area and each module of the curriculum that we created. We collected over 12 hours of video to include as part of the curriculum, and then ended up with the draft version of the online curriculum that we've turned over to HTA. This is just the overview of the different modules that we were tasked, that we created. The contracts state that we cover Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian history, customer service, and safety issues. But it also said that's just what we wanted, and if there was any more information that we wanted to include, we were welcome to do so. So we looked at the different ecosystems and islands throughout our Pai'aina, Olelo Hawai'i, storytelling and interpretation, designing a great tour experience, customer service, a module on professionalism and career development for our tour guides. So all of this is encompassed throughout this whole curriculum. And then we are also tasked with creating a promotional outreach plan of what we would do with the curriculum once we have it operational and ready to launch. So we created a three-phase approach. One is the first phase is the pilot phase. Second phase is the refinement and recruitment. And the third phase is our program expansion for our tour guides. Phase one of the pilot is we wanted to see. Our recommendation for HTA is for HTA to already include the stakeholder groups that are already heavily involved with destination stewardship, to include our curator businesses, our CTC cohorts, and other established partners that are familiar with HTA programs, to introduce a tour guide course to those stakeholders first, allow them to interact with the curriculum and give more feedback so that we can move on to the next phase, which is the refinement and recruitment portion.